Hello students, I am Dr. Benazir Zadhav, Associate Professor, Department of Biochemistry, MGM Medical College, Aurangabad. Today we are going to see how we estimate serum uric acid by Caraway's method in biochemistry laboratory. The procedure is divided into 5 steps. First one is principle, second one reagents which are required for the Caraway's method, third one is a procedure. The procedure is divided into 2 parts. In first part, we prepare protein-free filtrate, and in second part, the reactions are carried out for the color development. The fourth step is observation and calculations, and lastly, we get the result and we conclude with interpretation. Firstly, we will see the principle. The serum uric acid which is present in protein-free filtrate of serum reacts with phosphotungastic acid in presence of sodium carbonate to form blue colored phosphotungstase complex. The color intensity of complex developed is directly proportional to the amount of uric acid which is present in given serum sample. The color intensity is measured at 610 nanometers, that is red filtered, and it is compared with this standard uric acid which is treated similarly. These are the reagents which are used for the estimation of serum uric acid. This is 2/3 normal H2SO4. This is 10% sodium tungstate. This is 14% sodium carbonate. This is phosphotungastic acid. This is the standard of uric acid with concentration 0.005 milligrams per dl. So, in procedure, first part is preparation of protein-free filtrate. For that, we are taking 8 ml of distilled water. We are taking 8 ml of distilled water in the test tube. After that, we are going to add 0.5 ml of 10% sodium tungstate. To that, we are going to add 2/3 normal H2SO4 0.5 ml. So here for preparation of protein-free filtrate, in this test tube we have taken 8 ml of distilled water, 0.5 ml of sodium tungstate 10%, 2/3 normal H2SO4 0.5 ml. To that, now we are going to add 1 ml of synthetic sample for uric acid. So, for the preparation of protein-free filtrate, up till now we have added 8 ml of distilled water, 0.5 ml of 2/3 normal H2SO4, 0.5 ml of 10% sodium tungstate, and 1 ml of synthetic sample. Now, what we are going to do is rest the test tube for 5 minutes, and after that we are going to filter the content in another test tube. After 5 minutes, we are going to pour the content of this test tube into the filter. So, after standing period of 5 minutes, now I am pouring the content of this test tube, total 10 ml, into the funnel which has a filter paper, and we will give time the liquid to filter it down. It will take approximately 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, we will get a filtrate like this. The liquid which comes down from funnel is called as filtrate. So we are going to use this filtrate for the further procedure. So now we are proceeding towards the second part of procedure. In this procedure, color development, we have to take the 3 test tubes and we are able to name them as a blank, standard and unknown. In blank test tube, we are going to take 3 ml of distilled water. We are taking 3 ml of distilled water in blank test tube. We are going to take 3 ml of working standard of acid, 3 ml. And 3 ml of protein-free filtrate which we have prepared in the first part of procedure. So this is protein-free filtrate. We are taking unknown test tube, 3 ml. Now in these 3 test tubes, first we are going to add 14% sodium carbonate, 1 ml in each of the test tube. So we have put sodium carbonate 14% in blank test tube. Now we are taking 1 ml of sodium carbonate for the standard test tube. And lastly, we are going to put 1 ml of sodium carbonate in unknown test tube. Now, in next step, we are going to add phosphotungstic acid 1 ml in each of the test tube. Now we are putting 1 ml of phosphotungstic acid in standard test tube. And lastly, we are going to put 1 ml of phosphotungstic acid in unknown test tube. The test tube which contains protein-free filtrate. So once we pour this phosphotungstic acid, you can see the development of color over here. You have to mix the content of test tube so that equal reaction will take place in each part of test tube. Now we will let it stand for 15 minutes and after that we will take the ODs of these 3 test tubes. We are taking the readings of the ODs of the 3 test tube, blank, unknown and standard. So for that we are going to adjust the 0 with distilled water first. Now after that we are pouring down the distilled water and we are now taking the blank B test tube, solution from B test tube into the cuvette
and we are going to measure the OD. So the OD of blank is 0.02. After that, we will put back the solution of blank test tube into that. We are going to clean the cuvette with distilled water. And again, we are going to measure the OD of unknown now. So we are pouring the solution of test tube from unknown test tube, and we are taking the OD. The OD of unknown is 0.46. So we are putting back the unknown solution into the corresponding test tube. We are going to clean the cuvette with distilled water. And now we are going to take the standard solution in cuvette and take the OD. So the OD of standard is 0.33. So this is how we have obtained the ODs of the three solutions: blank, unknown and standard.
Normal range of uric acid is 2 to 6 milligrams per dl. If our value after practical, what we get, if it is less or more than normal, then it is considered as a pathological or abnormal. If the value is more than normal, then it is called as hyperuricemia. There are various mechanisms by which hyperuricemia occurs. First one is excess of catabolism of purines that lead to increased uric acid formation. Second one is decreased excretion of uric acid by kidneys. And third one, it can be a combination of above two. There are clinical conditions in which uric acid levels are raised. These are gout, von Gerg's disease, Lish-Nyhan syndrome. These three are because of the biochemical deficiency of various enzymes or excessive production of uric acid because of excessive action of enzymes leading to hyperuricemia. Then lactic acidosis and ketoacidosis. These are the metabolic conditions in which there is excess acid present in our body. So there is a competition for excretion between these acids and uric acid, so that uric acid levels are raised in these conditions. Then the conditions of secondary gout, which are like malignant disorders in which the turnover of cells is increased. For example, multiple myeloma, polycythemia, leukemia and various malignant conditions. Then lastly, if kidney is unable to excrete because of the various disorders of kidneys, then also uric acid levels are increased. So example of this is glomerulonephritis. If the uric acid levels are less than normal, then they are called as hypouricemia, and it is seen in Wilson's disease, xanthinuria and various severe liver disorders. So that is all about the estimation of uric acid by Caraway's method. Thank you.